As I explained in my talk on the musical construction of The Fall of Gondolin, the themes for the Silmarillion, which recur throughout the cycle, each have specific dramatic significance in the manner of the motivic construction of Wagner's Ring Cycle and many other operatic works. But in this talk, I wish to focus specifically on the three love duets which occur, one in each triptych in the score of Beren and Luthien, each of them differently constructed in a manner that reflects the changing progress of the love between the two protagonists. But before proceeding to this analysis, it is necessary to bring to the attention of listeners two very brief motifs which recur throughout the score of Beren and Luthien, but nowhere else in the Silmarillion cycle, one for each of the two lovers. Both are four-note mottos or tags, and both are often heard as an accompaniment to other material, including vocal melodies, as well as being developed symphonically. That for Beren is first heard when his men come up to rescue Finrod during the Battle of Sudden Flame in the prologue, and again when the fugitive character is mentioned in the interrogation of Gorlim by Sauron. But it comes solidly to the foreground when it is hammered out in frenzied repetition by the orchestra as Beren resolves to leave his homeland of Dorthonion and flee into exile. The corresponding motto for Luthien first appears as she begins her elvish song while dancing in the forest of Neldereth, repeated in a less frenzied manner, but initially recurring unchanged no fewer than 22 times. The brevity of these two motto themes allows for them to be combined into a single unit, and indeed this happens almost immediately the two lovers encounter one another, as an orchestral accompaniment to the main theme which binds the whole of their first love scene together. That main theme, as heard there, is a setting of the second verse of Aragorn's song Under Weathertop, which in turn derived from an earlier written poem sung to the young Turin on his arrival in Doriath, and even then conceived as a song about the meeting of the two lovers written after the event. In Beren and Luthien, it is first heard at the very outset of the first duet between the lovers, accompanied by a solo flute, which represents the music of Daron, himself enamoured of Luthien. We heard there the main theme at its full length, and it returns like a rondo, surrounding the episodes of other musical material throughout the course of the scene. But it is not heard again in precisely that original form until the very end of the evening. Even by that time, when the chorus come to sing the second verse, as we have heard, it is already heard as a counterpoint to the newly combined motto theme, and the melodies of the third and fourth couplets are transposed with each other. This leads into the first of Beren's interjections, the elvish poem of Luthien forming the first of her episodes, where he sings a lament which will in its turn recur several times throughout the score. This leads to the third statement of the rondo melody, now transformed into a whirling dance with off-stage flute accompaniment, and then into the second episode for Luthien, as she invites Beren to dance with her. The music for her dance will also recur later, gaining new and almost diabolic force as she weaves her enchantments around Morgoth. But in this scene, the dance is perceived as though from a distance, and it soon subsides into a fourth partial statement of the opening bars of the rondo, before a new theme makes itself heard. As we heard, this new choral material accompanies a further lament for Beren, but the theme itself will also assume its own significance much later in the score. Here it leads back to the fifth statement of the rondo theme, now dramatically fragmented to illustrate Beren's capture of the fleeing Luthien, who subsides into his arms. The music of his earlier lament now reappears, transformed into an enchanted counterpoint to the solo music of Daren's flute, and finally leading to a raptly extended sixth appearance of the rondo theme. and, floating over the rondo theme, the listener can just become aware of the Beren and Luthien motto themes, extended in high violin lines as the first of their duets moves towards its conclusion. When Beren declares his love for Luthien to her father Thingol in scene 4, the music we have just heard makes a return in the orchestra, but the two lovers do not actually encounter each other again until the very end of the second triptych, when Luthien rescues Beren from the dungeons of Sauron. This second love duet is very much shorter than its counterparts in the other triptychs, and at first it may appear that it is a simple strophic setting of verses from the Lay of Luthien, with a short and more dramatic central section and an abridged return to the initial material. But apart from the return of their respective motto themes, with Beren's heard fleetingly in the orchestra as the duet begins, the actual melody itself is a variation on a new choral theme heard during scene 3, immediately after the fourth statement of the rondo melody. Now it is extended and developed, using the second phrase of a theme initially heard during Luthien's Elvish song in her first scene, to form the principal material for the opening stanza, sung by Luthien. This melody is immediately taken up even more elaborately by Beren, who extends it and repeats it once again in ever-increasing ecstasy before he recalls himself to the perilous situation in which the two lovers now find themselves, the theme of the Silmarils suddenly interrupting the outpouring of emotion. After this brief dramatic passage of 17 bars, Luthien brings the music back to the initial melody, no longer sung, but present in the orchestra as a counterpoint to the ongoing dramatic statements of the theme of the Silmarils, Beren's motto, the theme associated with death, and the Silmarils again, before the love theme returns at her final words. But then it is the themes associated with the dead Finrod, with the wolf, and with Sauron himself, which dominate the final bars with a sense of overpowering menace. The duet between the lovers in the third triptych is again of a very different nature, in some ways a farewell to the world, but also an ecstatic hymn to the power of love and its ability to overcome even the threat of death. It is also the longest single passage of singing for the two lovers in the whole of the score, some 10 minutes in performance, and its musical structure is really quite complex. It begins with a very simple, almost plaintive melody for the semi-conscious Beren, with an accompaniment reduced to the bare sounds of a solo cello and then a bass clarinet counterpoint. The main theme of his Song of Farewell is taken up by the orchestra and developed contrapuntally before it returns in its original form, now more fully harmonised. At the prospect of his death, his voice assumes a more hushed tone, with the orchestra recalling the music associated with Angband, before the theme returns once again, now in full harmonic garb and repeated by the orchestra as an echo of the vocal line.
Farewell, sweet earth and northern sky, forever blessed since ye did lie, and here with lissom limbs did run beneath the moon, beneath the sun.
And the music now moves immediately into a new theme, a solo violin statement of a melody which will form one of the principal themes associated with Luthien's appeal to Mandos. And then at once proceeding again to yet another new theme. Or is it? In fact, what we now hear is Luthien's motto theme from her very first utterances, slowed down and given a shifting harmonic treatment that moves through a whole circle of modulating keys in a determined but unpredictable manner. As Luthien begins her declaration that she will follow her lover even unto death and beyond, we hear for 10 bars a striding, rising whole-tone scale which threatens to burst free from the original key altogether. This scale has been associated from its very first appearance in Fëanor with Mandos as the ruler of the realm of death. This is its first appearance in Beren and Luthien, but in the interlude following Beren's death at the beginning of the final scene, it will assume a more aspirational significance. Here it turns back to the solo violin theme and series of shifting chords based on the Luthien motto, both now transformed into a triumphant mode accompanied by rushing strings. And then, as the changing chords rise to a climax, yet another new theme is introduced by Beren, joined by Luthien in a duet of increasing ecstasy. This apostrophe to the overwhelming power of love does not return in Beren and Luthien, but it will be heard again in the course of the Silmarillion cycle, when it is taken up by the chorus at the climax of their celebration of the marriage of Túrabar and Niniel in the Children of Húrin, and elaborated even more extensively. Here, as the two lovers conclude their duet, the orchestra surges in with Beren's original song-like theme, now developed into a series of overlapping orchestral waves. This ends the third of the love duets, which form such an integral part of the setting of Beren and Luthien, and indeed nearly all of the love music, but not quite. For after Luthien's song before Mandos has restored Beren to life, the rondo theme associated with their first meeting has one more appearance to make. Here, as the lovers, in the words of Aragorn, pass away into the forest, the melodic material is pared back to its very bones, with even the descending scales of the harmony banished to the muted strings. But this sense of calm and silence is deceptive, at any rate in the context of the Silmarillion as a whole. For the very next notes to be heard in the cycle will be in the prologue of the Children of Húrin, the confrontation between Húrin and Morgoth, which we will be releasing next year. But in the meantime...